Good morning, and thank you for joining us for the presentation of the Educator Effectiveness 2021 Block Grant Program. This technical assistance webinar is provided by the Educator Excellence and Equity Division at the California Department of Education. Please note that this webinar is being recorded. My name is Kristen Cruz Allen, and I'm the Education Administrator 1 in the Teacher and Leader Policy Office at the Educator Excellence and Equity Division at the CDE. I wanted to introduce the Educator Effectiveness Funds 2021 team. It consists of myself, Alexis Clift, an Education Programs Consultant, and May Vu, a Staff Services Analyst. Please feel free to contact us at 916-445-7331 or for a more timely response via email at eef2021@cde.ca.gov. Please try to hold your questions until the end of the presentation. The presentation will answer many of your questions. For additional questions and information, please visit the CDE EEF 2021-26 Program Help webpage at https://www.cde.ca.gov/PD/EE/EEF 2021.ASP. The EEF 2021-26 Block Grant Program was established by Assembly Bill 130, Chapter 44, Section 22, Statutes of 2021. The law specified that the EEF may be used to support professional learning for certificated teachers, administrators, paraprofessional educators, and certificated staff. AB 181, Chapter 52, Section 18, Statutes of 2022, or Education Code 41480, contains updates to the EEF, including changes to the timeline requirements and allowable uses. The EEF block grant represents an unprecedented investment in California's educator workforce. The program provides $1,500,000 for county offices of education, school districts, charter schools, and state special schools to provide professional learning in order to promote educator equity, quality, and effectiveness. There are now 11 allowable uses of these funds. Assembly Bill, or AB 181 of 2022, added, quote, strategies to improve beginning teacher retention and support through teacher induction programs. AB 181, Chapter 52, Section 18 includes updates to the Educator Effectiveness Funds. One significant change is that the deadline to present and approve a plan has changed from December 30th, 2021 to March 31st, 2023. California Education Code 41480 D1 states the local plan for EEF needs to be heard in a public meeting of a governing board of a school district, the County Board of Education, or governing body of the charter school before its adoption in a subsequent public meeting. This must take place on, or should have taken place, on or before March 31st, 2023. Local educational agencies, or LEAs, that do not meet this requirement will have to return the funds. Education Code 41480D2 states a final report must be submitted on or before September 30th, 2026. Funds may be expended during the 2021-22, 2022-23, 2023-24, 2024-25, and 2025-26 fiscal years. Local educational agencies, or LEAs, must ensure that no employees were charged a fee for services allowable under EC or Ed Code 41480 including but not limited to beginning teacher induction program costs during the grant period pursuant to this section. Per AB 181, fiscal year 2022-23 through 2025-26, LEAs may not charge EEF services such as induction. If employees are charged, this will result in a return of funds. All funds must be returned to the CDE if LEAs do not meet the conditions of apportionment. AB 181 changed the deadline for presenting and adopting an EEF plan from December 31st, 2021 to March 31st, 2023. Due to this change, it is possible that LEAs could receive an audit finding as part of their 2022-23 annual audit report for not meeting the March 31st, 2023 deadline. If an audit finding is received, the CDE will reach out to the LEA requesting corrective action to resolve the finding. Since the deadline was moved to March 31st, 2023, evidence must be provided and should reflect that the presentation and adoption of the EEF plan took place in two separate public meetings by March 31st, 2023. This evidence will be sufficient to resolve the finding. Evidence would include meeting agendas or board-approved meeting minutes. Please note that the agendas and the minutes must show that the presentation and the adoption must show the presentation and adoption of the plan. I'll now hand it over to Mei Vu to discuss the EEF annual reporting requirements.
Hello. An annual data and expenditure report will be due each year on or before September 30th of 2023. Auditors will review documentation to support the submission of the expenditure reports by September 30th of 2023. If the reports are not submitted on or before September 30th, 2023, then the refunds will need to be returned. The CDE is requiring annual reporting as a response to requests for detailed information in the legislative report to justify future funding opportunities and to confirm funding is being appropriately used and tracked at the local level. The reporting template and online database includes several sections and subsections. Let's take a look at the breakdown of components. The initial sections include the logon page and instructions, the EEF overview and contact information, EEF services and purchases. The subsections, which are based directly on the original 11 allowable uses, include number 1, coaching and mentoring, number 2, standards aligned instruction, number 3, pupil re-engagement and accelerated learning, number 4, strategies to improve well-being, number 5, practices to promote positive school climate, number 6, inclusive practice strategies, number 7, English learner programs, number 8, new professional learning networks, number 9, ethnic studies curricula, number 10, early childhood child development, and 11, teacher retention strategies. We will review all of the initial sections, the logon page and instructions, the overview and contact information, and the professional learning services and purchases section. In addition, we will review one subsection, coaching and mentoring, as the narrative and expenditure information required for each subsection is the same. I will now hand it over to Alexis Cliff to walk us through the EEF report database.
Hello, everyone. Now let's take an initial look at the EEF report database. This is an example of what LEAs will see when they select the report database link on the EEF program webpage or the EEF annual and final expenditure reports webpage. Please note that we will provide all applicable web page addresses again at the end of the presentation. LEAs will be asked to select their county and then LEA name. LEAs will use a unique PIN, a 6-digit code, and will then select the logon button. Next, this illustration displays the top of the first screen in the online database. Please note that the LEA name and County District School, or CDS code, will appear at the top of each page of the EEF report database. There are instructions at the top of each page. These instructions include: answer all applicable questions on each page. When you go to the next page, the responses of the current page will be automatically saved. You have the option to select the Save button to save all the responses on the current page. At the end of the report, you must select the Submit button to finalize your submission. Please note that any EEF expenditures entered in one section should not be re-entered in another section or subsection, as this will result in an incorrect expenditure total. Please note that the EEF section and subsection totals may not equal the overall expenditure total. This is due to the fact that educators may attend multiple professional learning opportunities and may be counted more than once across allowable use areas. Please only enter expenditure data for the 2022-23 school year. After the instructions section, Screen 1 includes the EEF Overview and Contact Information section. At the top of this section, LEAs will see a box titled Total EEF Allocation. This box will be pre-populated with each LEA's total EEF allocation. Next, LEAs will see a box titled Previously Reported 21-22 Expenditures. This box will be pre-populated with each LEA's previously reported total from last year's reporting. LEAs will also see a box titled Remaining EEF Funds. This box will display the current amount of EEF funds available. Please note that this is calculated by taking the LEA's total EEF allocation and subtracting the total reported for last year, the 21-22 school year. Directly under the total allocation is the Program Administrator section. Please note the Program Administrator's email address will be used to notify the LEA that the report has been received by the CDE after the LEA submits the collection. All of the information in this subsection includes first name, last name, title, office, telephone number, telephone extension, that's optional, and email. The second part of the EEF Overview and Contact Information section asks for LEA's fiscal agent information. Please note that the fiscal agent section is optional. If the LEA chooses to complete this section, then the fiscal agent will be included on communications regarding budget and accounting for the EEF. All of the information in this subsection includes first name, last name, title, telephone number, telephone extension, which is optional, and email. The final subsection of the EEF Overview and Contact Information is titled EEF Plan Adopted by Local Board or Governing Body. This subsection asks LEAs to provide the date of their EEF plan adoption and includes an optional field in which LEAs may provide a link to their posted EEF plan or board minutes approving their plan. Please note that plans that were not originally presented and approved by the governing board in a subsequent meeting by March 31st, 2023 will result in the return of the educator effectiveness funds. Please be sure to enter the original EEF adoption date, original date. If you had to re-adopt your EEF plan due to plan changes, do not enter that date. Enter the original. The second part of the EEF Services and Purchases section asks LEAs to identify purchases made with EEF that supported professional learning offerings. This subsection requires LEAs to provide both narrative information as well as the expenditure amounts for books, training materials, and other materials purchased under the allowable uses of funds. Specifically, it asks LEAs to provide information about the materials purchased and the vendors they were purchased from. Please note that the system will populate a total amount for this subsection near the bottom of the subsection. At the end of the books and materials purchases section, there will be a pre-calculated total with each LEA's current year for books and material purchases. Next, LEAs will see a box titled Previously Submitted Purchases Total. This box will be pre-populated with each LEA's previously reported total from the books and material purchases from last year's reporting. LEAs will also see a box titled Overall Purchases Total, all reported years. This box will display the overall books and materials purchases amount for all of the years reported. Please note that this is calculated by taking last year's books and material purchases total plus the current year's books and materials purchases total. The third part of the EEF Services and Purchases screen asks LEAs to identify additional expenditures made with EEF that supported professional learning offerings. This subsection requires LEAs to provide both narrative information as well as expenditure amounts for staffing and benefits that were supported with EEF. In the narrative box, LEAs should provide information about existing staff salaries and benefits that were supported with EEF, as well as the titles and basic duties. This part also requires LEAs to report expenditure amounts for travel and per diem, stipends, substitutes, and indirect costs. At the end of the EEF additional expenditures section, there will be a pre-calculated total with each LEA's current year for the EEF additional expenditures. Next, LEAs will see a box titled Previously Submitted Additional Total. This box will be pre-populated with each LEA's previously reported total from last year's EEF Additional Expenditures section. LEAs will also see the box titled Overall Additional Total, all reported years. This box will display the overall additional total, all reported years. Please note that this is calculated by taking last year's EEF additional total expenditures plus the current year's EEF total expenditures. We have received a few questions regarding where coaches and mentors belong. They can be reported in the coaching and mentoring section under coaches and mentors, or they can be reported here. That is up to the LEA. Just be sure to account for them in one spot because both spots would lead to double counting, so just one. The third and final part of the EEF Services and Purchases screen asks about major activities supported by the EEF. This subsection is important because it provides LEAs with the opportunity to report on and elaborate on how they used EEF to promote educator equity, quality, and effectiveness. Please note that this should be a concise summary as the maximum character limit is 1,500. The next part of the database includes a list of subsections tied to the 11 allowable uses for EEF. AB 181 added one additional area for beginning teacher retention and support through teacher and administration induction programs for the 2022 through 2026 years. This section asks LEAs to indicate which, if any, of the following categories their LEA had EEF expenditures in for the current reporting year. The 11 allowable use categories include coaching and mentoring, standards-aligned instruction, pupil re-engagement, pupil well-being, positive school climate, inclusive practices, English learner programs, professional learning networks, ethnic studies, early childhood development, and teacher retention strategies. It is important that LEAs pay particular attention to this section and make sure to select yes next to any of the allowable use categories that were funded through EEF this year. Please note that the system will only take LEAs to the subsection reporting screen for the categories in which they have selected yes. If for some reason an LEA did not spend any EEF funds in the 2022-23 fiscal year, then the LEA will select no for each subcategory, and then the LEA will be taken to a final summary screen that simply asks them to verify their total EF expenditures by category and for some basic narrative information regarding their EEF plan and when they anticipate expending these funds. Please note that an example of the final summary screen will be displayed later in the presentation. So far, we've gone through the initial screens for the annual reporting database, including the logon screen, the instructions screen, the overview and contacts section, the EEF services and purchases section, and the EEF expenditure category selection section. The next part of the database includes the subsections tied to the 11 allowable uses for EEF. Since all of the subsections contain a very similar structure, we're only going to review the first subsection, coaching and mentoring. This section asks LEAs for information related to coaching and mentoring activities that were supported by the EEF. This subsection requires LEAs to report the number of staff members who participated in coaching and mentoring per staff type, including teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, and other classified staff. Please note that the box under staff type, total number served, will be calculated automatically. Next is an optional narrative box that LEAs may use to provide details regarding EEF expenditures related to coaching and mentoring. The second half of the coaching and mentoring section requires LEAs to provide expenditure amounts for specific allowable uses. The allowable uses related to coaching and mentoring include beginning teacher induction, beginning administrator induction, retaining teachers, efforts to diversify the workforce, and other expenditures. LEAs will be asked to provide narrative details and describe their efforts to diversify the teacher workforce through coaching and mentoring. Please note that the system will populate an expenditure total near the bottom of the subsection. Please note that the diversifying the teacher workforce narrative box and expenditure amount only show up in some of the categories and not all. At the end of each allowable use section, there will be a pre-calculated total with each LEA's current year total. Next, LEAs will see a box titled Previously Submitted Expenditures Total. This box will be pre-populated with each LEA's previously reported total from last year's reporting. LEAs will also see a box titled Overall Expenditures Total, all reported years. This box will display the overall expenditures total for all of the years reported. Please note that this is calculated by taking last year's overall expenditures total plus the current year's overall expenditures total. The third and final part of the coaching and mentoring section asks LEAs if EEF services were provided by a vendor. If an LEA answers yes, then they will be asked to include narrative information about vendors and providers as well as the services they offered. After LEAs complete all of the applicable subsection categories, the database will direct them to a final screen titled Final Summary. At the top of the Final Summary screen, LEAs will see a box titled Total EEF Allocation. This box will be pre-populated with each LEA's total EEF allocation. Next, LEAs will see the box titled Previously Reported 2021 through 22 Expenditures. This box will be pre-populated with each LEA's previously reported total from last year's reporting. LEAs will also see a box titled Remaining EEF Funds. This box will display the current amount of EEF funds available. Please note that this is calculated by taking the LEA's total EEF allocation and subtracting the total reported for last year. Next, the final summary screen provides a breakdown of all of the reported expenditure totals per subsection. LEAs will see their total EEF expenditures broken down by fund category. The first fund category is a subtotal for professional learning supplies. Next, all 11 allowable use subsections are reported: coaching and mentoring, standards-aligned instruction, pupil re-engagement, pupil well-being, positive school climate, inclusive practices, English learner programs, professional learning networks, ethnic studies, early childhood development, and teacher retention strategies. Finally, a total of all of the categories are reported at the bottom of the expenditure chart under the total reported 2022-23 expenditures. LEAs should pay particular attention to this screen to ensure that the subtotals reported for the 2022-23 year are correct. After LEAs check all of the applicable subsection categories, this is the second part of the final summary screen that they will see. This part of the final summary screen includes a narrative section for LEAs to complete. Only if the LEA's total reported expenditures were 0 for the fiscal year. So this section, only if you've reported nothing this year. Finally, at the bottom of the screen, LEAs will see an electronic signature box. This box includes an acknowledgement that states, "I hereby certify that, to the best of my knowledge, the information in this application is correct and complete. I support the proposed project and commit my organization to completing all of the tasks and activities that are described in the application." The authorizing official is to acknowledge the statement and type their name in the signature field near the bottom of the screen. This is the last screen of the EEF database. The top of the page will display the LEA name and CDS code. LEAs are directed to select the Submit button to submit their collection. Upon submission, each LEA will be given a confirmation number and provided with a printable version of their responses. Please note that the program administrator's email address will be used to notify each LEA that their report has been received by the CDE. And now let's turn back over to my colleague, May Vu, for some EEF timeline information. May.
Awesome. Thank you, Alexis. All right, so let's look at some important program dates. First, between January and May of 2022, the CDE released all of the educator effectiveness funds to the LEAs. On or before March 31st, 2023, LEAs must have developed and adopted a plan which needed to be presented in a public meeting delineating how EEF will be spent. Once again, please note that the local plan is subject to an audit. Finally, on or before September 30th of 2023, LEAs must complete their annual reports and submit them to the CDE via online the database. Remember, the annual report is due every year on or before September 30th, and a final report is due on or before September 30th of 2026. Now, let's go over some useful web pages. You can visit the EEF Home Program webpage at www.cde.ca.gov/PD/EEF2021.ASP. You can visit the EEF 2021 Frequently Asked Questions webpage at www.cde.ca.gov/PD/EEF2021FAQ.ASP. For more important information on fiscal, our colleagues in the School Fiscal Services Division have created a webpage at www.cde.ca.gov/FG /AA/CA/educatoreffectiveness.asp. Finally, to join the EEF 2021 listserv, please send a blank email message to join-EEF2021@mlist.cde.ca.gov. For fiscal questions, including allocations and audits, please feel free to contact the School Fiscal Services Division at caar@cde.ca.gov. Please remember, you may also find useful fiscal information on the School Fiscal Services Division webpage at www.cde.ca.gov/FG/AA/CA/educatoreffectiveness.asp. For program information, please feel free to contact the EEF 2021 team through the Teacher and Leader Policy Office, Educator Excellence and Equity Division. Kristen Cruz Allen, Educator Administrator 1, Alexis Clift, Education Programs Consultant, May Vu, Staff Service Analyst. Please feel free to contact us at 916-445-7331, or for a more timely response via email at EEF2021@cde.ca.gov.
We thank you for your time today. Please watch for an updated or an email, with the PowerPoint slides for you. And then also watch our webpage for when we post this actual webinar, when it's 508 compliant.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.